Good evening. Are we all in? Should we start? Yes. Okay. For some students, this is the first session. For some students, because you have already taken some sessions. For example, probably you have taken parajumbers and reading comprehension and vocabulary-based sessions. So there's a mix of all kinds of students here today. Okay. Usually, when we start our classes, we start with grammar review. Okay, we take two sessions on grammar review where we discuss basic grammar, and most of the information that I'm going to give you over these two classes, most of that you will already be familiar with most of that information. So these two sessions are more like a recapitulation. Okay, they are more like a recapitulation of all the basic things that will be required. And after grammar review, we normally take up error correction. Okay, because you need to understand how standard English works. That is why this is the first thing that we do. Okay, so today in grammar review, I told you we are going to start with very basics. So even if you have all this information, just sit, relax, just revise whatever I discussed today. Most of the time, most of the times I'll be talking. It's going to be more like a monologue. There is no exercise today. I'll just go through all the basic concepts. Okay, is this clear? Okay. Now, any language, okay, be it English or any other language, language is nothing but a means of communication, isn't it? Language is a means of communication, and if you want to communicate, how do you communicate? You communicate through words. You use words, and you use words to communicate. Normally, what we do, we use words in groups. We use a number of words to frame sentences, and it is through these sentences that we communicate our thoughts. So the first thing that we need to understand before we start grammar is uh, the concept of the sentence. Whenever we speak, whenever we write, okay, whenever we speak, whenever we write, what do? We actually use words. And normally we use these words in groups. Even though there is no restriction on how many words can be there in a group, but normally we frame short sentences. So the group can contain any number of words. That is what happens most of the times. Okay. Now, when a group of words make complete sense, then it is called a sentence. But please don't, please don't be under the delusion that only a group of words can make complete sense. Because communication, language is just a means of communication. Sometimes there are going to be sentences in which just one word is going to communicate the complete thought. For example, if I shout run to you, if I say run, immediately you'll understand what I was trying to say. And that one word makes complete sense and is called a sentence. So normally for communication, we use words. We use words in groups. When a group of words make complete sense, we call it a sentence. However, sentence is not just a group of words. Sometimes if a single word makes complete sense, then that single word is also a sentence. For example, if you are, if you hear somebody scream, help. So you understand what that person is trying to say, isn't it? That person does not use to, that person does not need to use number of words. That just one word help communicates to you that somebody is in need, somebody needs assistance. So this is what sentences are. Sentence is nothing but a group of words. A group of words that makes complete sense, or if not a group of words or word when it makes complete sense is called a sentence. Now, what are the kinds of sentences we normally form? There are four kinds of sentences we form. The most common is the first one, that is declarative or assertive sentences. We use declarative or assertive sentences when we simply want to make a statement. We want to state something. We want to state a fact or universal truth. We just want to make an assertion. Such a sentence is called declarative or assertive sentence. For example, if you say New Delhi is the capital of India, this is a statement you are making. If you say I love ice cream, this is a fact you are stating. If you say I am a student of BTech, this is also a fact that you are asserting. So all these sentences in which you make a statement or assertion, they are called declarative or assertive sentences. There are some sentences through which you ask a question. If you are using a sentence to ask a question, then that sentence is called an interrogative sentence. Where do you live? What is your name? Why did you do this? What do you want from me? All these are interrogative sentences. Okay, so sentences through which you ask a question, these sentences are called interrogative sentences. Then you have something called imperative sentences and exclamatory sentences. Any sentence through which you express a command, you express a request or an entreaty. Entreaty is nothing but a humble request. What is entreaty? Entreaty is a humble request. So any sentence which expresses a command, a request, or a humble request is called an imperative sentence. If I say be quiet, have mercy upon us. In fact, all these expressions, run, help. If I shout run, am I not making a request? If I shout help, am I not making a request? I am. So be quiet, have mercy upon us, run, help. All these are nothing but imperative sentences. These are sentences through which you express a command, a request, or an entreaty. And the last sentence is exclamatory. If you express a very strong feeling about something, then that sentence is called an exclamatory sentence. Any sentence through which you express a very strong feeling is called an exclamatory sentence. For example, if you say, how cold the night is. Oh no, what a shame. Awesome. Awesome performance. So all these are what? All these statements, they are expressing strong feelings, and that is why they are called exclamatory sentences. Okay? Now, why are we discussing this? We are discussing this. In fact, I will be discussing only things that are important. From the exam point of view, things that are important, things that you will need, only those things I will be discussing. We are discussing these things because in error correction, when they ask you to take a look at sentences and they tell you to find out errors, then you have to check. Every sentence should have a subject. Every sentence should have a subject and a verb also. However, in imperative sentences, what happens in imperative sentences? Imperative sentences normally do not include the subject. We normally, when we write imperative sentences, we leave out the subjects. That does not make imperative sentences wrong. All other kind of sentences are going to be wrong if we leave out the subject. But imperative sentence is not going to be wrong if we leave out the subject. For example, if you look at this statement, be quiet. There's no subject here, don't you think? Similarly, have mercy upon us. There's no subject here. What happens in imperative sentences is that in imperative sentences, the subject is assumed. Okay, subject is assumed. We don't write it. So when I read be quiet, it is just like saying you be quiet. Okay, when I say run, it is just like saying you run. When I say help, it is just like saying you help. And when I say have mercy upon us, It is just like saying, you have mercy upon us. So for imperative sentences, subjects are assumed. Did you understand? Otherwise, all other all other statements, we will have to mention the subject. That is why we are discussing these four sentences. These are four different kinds of sentences. And now the next part is, if there is a sentence, then in every sentence there's going to be two parts. Every sentence will have two parts. Okay? Whenever we construct a sentence, we must talk about somebody or something, and we must say something about that person or thing. So every sentence has two parts. We must talk about somebody or something, and we must say something about that person or thing. So there must be a subject that we talk about, and we must say or predicate something about that subject. So there are two parts of a sentence, the subject and the predicate. Okay, there are two parts, the subject and the predicate. So the part which names the person or the thing that we are talking about is called the subject of the sentence, and the part which tells us something about the subject is called the predicate of the sentence. Okay, so a sentence has two parts, subject and predicate. The part which names that person or thing is called subject, and the part which tells you something about the subject is called predicate of the sentence. Is this clear? Anybody has any doubt till now? Simple, very simple, isn't it? Okay. Now normally when we frame sentences, then the subject of a sentence comes first. That is what normally happens. But there are some cases where we start the sentence with the predicate. There's nothing wrong in that. Okay, I can put the predicate first. For example, if I say, here comes the bus, my subject is the bus. And what do I want to say about the bus? I want to say that here it comes. So this is the predicate. Similarly, I can say, sweet are the uses of adversity. I am actually talking about adversity. Adversity is my subject. And what do I want to tell you about adversity? I want to tell you that its uses are sweet. So please don't be under the impression that you have to start your sentence with a subject. That's not always true. There are situations where you can start your sentence with a predicate as well. There's no problem in that, right? And this one is important, this next part, which I have already discussed with you. If it is an imperative sentence, then the subject is left out. The subject is implied. We don't normally mention the subject. So if I say sit down, so that is a command. I'm giving you a command. Or I'm making a request, depending on my tone. If I say sit down, that's a command. If I say sit down, that's a request. In both the situations, the subject you is understood. Similarly, if I command you to thank him, subject you is understood. I don't say you thank him, you sit down. When the teacher asks you to get out of the class, the teacher will say get out. Normally the teacher does not say you get out. The teacher will say get out. So remember, in imperative sentences, we leave out the subjects. There's nothing wrong in that. Subjects are implied in imperative sentences. Otherwise, in all other sentences, we will have to mention the subject. Now coming to the next thing, that is parts of speech. Now because we are using words in a sentence, we collect words and we form sentences. Every single word that you use in a sentence, it is performing a role. Okay, it is doing some work in that sentence. Now the good news is that there are what kind of role a word can perform, that is restricted. Okay, there are 8 different kinds of roles. 8 roles in all that every single word can perform in a sentence. And that is why these 8 roles are called parts of speech. They're called parts, which is as good as saying these are roles. So in some, you will see that in some sentences, some word will be telling you the name of something. And in some sentences, you will see there's going to be a word that is going to tell you what somebody or something is doing. In some words, there are going to be words that are going to tell you what kind of person somebody is. So different words perform different function in a sentence. And there are a total of 8 different functions which are called 8 parts of speech. Okay? Every single word that you use in a sentence will be performing one of these 8 roles. Every single word. Okay? For example, if I say he is a good boy, let us parse it. Parse means let us break it down into its grammatical units. He is a pronoun. It's performing a role of a pronoun. Is a verb. A is adjective. It's an article. Good is also an adjective. And boy is a noun. So like this, every single word that you use in a sentence, it is performing, it is one part of speech, it is performing one role. There are a total of 8 roles, 8 parts of speeches. What are these 8 parts of speeches? That is something that we are going to discuss in detail now. Everything is clear till now? These are very basic things which I know most of you are already familiar. This is just a recapitulation. Okay, great. Now, we'll not be able to discuss all 8 today. Okay, we'll not be able to discuss all 8 today. We are going to complete the first 3 today. We'll discuss nouns, adjectives, and pronouns today. And whatever information is, I mean, I'm not going to go into lots of detail. Whatever information is required as far as error correction is concerned, the basic information, that is something that we'll discuss. And whenever we meet next, then we are going to discuss this plus a lot of other information in the second session. So let's start with nouns. What is a noun? That word which tells you the name. Okay, the word that tells you the name of a person, place, animal, or thing is called a noun. If a word is telling you the name of a person, place, animal, or thing, then that word is a noun. You can see some examples. Akbar was a great king. Akbar is name of a person. King is also a name of a person who sits on the throne. Both are noun. Kolkata is on the Hooghly. Kolkata is name of city. Hooghly is name of a river. The rose smells sweet. Rose is name of a flower. His courage won him honor. Courage is name of that quality which he has. Now, even though you cannot touch courage. You cannot touch courage. It is kind of intangible, but it is the name of that quality which he has. And honor is all the awards that he has received, all the awards, medals. They are the name of all these awards, medals. They are the name is honor, isn't it? So remember, when I say noun is name of person, place, animal, or thing. Now, thing can be both tangible and intangible. Thing can be both tangible as well as intangible. For example, what do we breathe? We breathe in air. Okay, the name of the thing which we breathe in is air, but you can't touch air. But the thing that we breathe in has a name. Its name is air. So air is a noun. So remember, when we use the word thing, it includes all objects that you can see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, and also those objects that you can only think of, but you cannot perceive it by the senses. Remember, Okay, so it's both tangible as well as intangible. Noun is the name of a person, place, animal, or thing. That word which tells you the name is called noun. Now, there can be so many different names. Just like you have so many people have a school name and they have a nickname, and then they have um, um, they have another name that is used by the friends. So that there can be different kinds of nouns. So what are the different kinds of nouns? The different kinds of nouns are: number one, common noun. Common noun is the name that is given in common to every person or thing of the same class or kind. For example, girl, country. When I use the word girl, I can use this girl for every female on this planet. It's common to all the feminine gender. Similarly, when I use the name country, I can use it for all the nations in this world. It's common. But if I want to talk about a specific girl, if I want to talk about a specific country, so whenever you give me the name of a specific or a particular person, place, animal, or thing, then that name becomes a proper noun. For example, India is name of a particular country. Amit is name of a particular person. And proper nouns, proper nouns. How do we differentiate between common noun and proper noun? One very interesting thing is that proper nouns will always and always start with a capital letter at the beginning. Always. In India, I is always capital. In Amit, A is always capital. But girl, country, these are common nouns. Girl, country, lion, tiger. These are common nouns. Every tiger is called a tiger. Every girl is called a girl. But yes, we can have a particular tiger whose name can be Shanti. You must have heard. Let's say there's a tiger in Delhi Zoo, and the name of the tiger is Shanti. Shanti becomes proper noun. Tiger is common noun. So common noun is name that is given to every person or thing of the same class or kind. Okay, it is common to all the people of the same kind or the same class. And proper noun is specific. Proper nouns are always, whenever you write proper nouns, they always start with a capital letter at the beginning. Then we come to the next part. Um, After common noun and proper noun, we have collective nouns and abstract nouns. Collective nouns are the collective name given to a collection of persons or things taken together. Okay, so collective noun is nothing but it's the name of persons or things taken together and spoken as one whole. A group of people, a group of people will be called crowd. A group of teachers would be called faculty. A group of fish is called school, isn't it? A group of fish is called school. So school is a collective noun. It is a name given to a collection, a group of fishes. Faculty is a name given to group of teachers. Crowd is name given to group of people. So when I'm using a name for this group, the group name is called collective noun. And plus we also have abstract nouns. Abstract nouns are names of those things that we can only think of. We cannot touch these things. Okay, for example, bravery. He is very famous for his bravery. So what is the name of the thing which he is famous for? He is very famous for his bravery. Bravery is the name of the thing which he is famous for. But can you touch bravery? No. I am afraid of the darkness. What is the name of the thing you are afraid of? Darkness. Can you touch darkness? No. He is full of hatred. He is full of hatred, right? So what is the name? What is the name of the thing which is full of? It's hatred. But you can't touch it. Similarly, I miss my childhood. So what is the name of the thing that you miss? Childhood. So childhood also you can't touch. So all these are abstract nouns. Bravery, darkness, hatred, childhood, courage, honor. These are all abstract nouns. But these are names of things that are intangible. Okay. Sharad, army is collective noun. Army is collective noun. Okay. Collection of soldiers called army. It's collective noun. So we have discussed 4 different kinds of nouns. Yes, army is common noun also. Army is common noun also. Same noun in different situations. It can be different things. Okay. Okay. Idea means, Rajesh, what is your question? Idea. I did not understand what you're trying to say. Idea is an abstract noun. Yes. Yes. So it's not just these 4 nouns. We have countable and uncountable nouns also. There are some things that you can count, right? For example, you can count books. You can count how many sisters you have. So the name of those things that you can count is called a countable noun. The name of those things that you cannot count is called uncountable noun. Milk and honesty, you can't count. You can't count money. So those things that you cannot count, okay, those things that you cannot count, they are called uncountable. So remember, countable nouns will have plural forms. They have plural forms. For example, you can say books and sisters. Uncountable nouns don't have. They don't have plural forms. Okay, you can't say milks and honesties, right? So whenever there is a confusion, okay, whenever there is a confusion, whether something is countable or uncountable, then start counting it. You will immediately come to know whether it is countable or not countable. Okay. Now to answer your question, Sharad. Honesty is adjective. It's noun. Honesty is noun. It's a name of a quality. Okay. Okay. Nagpal. Your name is Nagpal. Sharad, but you changed it from honesty. You made it honest. Honest is adjective. You asked a question about honesty and not honest. If you change the word, then yes, everything changes. Okay. Honesty is noun. Honest is adjective. Remember that. The same word, I can change the form. I will discuss this with you. I will discuss this with you. If yes, honesty is the best policy. So honesty over here is a noun. Honesty is used as a noun. It's not used as an adjective. The word best is an adjective in your sentence. Okay. And Rohan, your question is money. What money? What did you want to ask? Bhaskar, did you have any query? If you had any query, please use the chat window. Okay. Okay, you don't have a query. Uncountable. Yes, money is uncountable. Rohan, money is uncountable. Okay. The unit of money is countable. See, very simple. If you are confused whether something is countable or uncountable, start counting. Start counting 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, right? So let us say I want to find out whether stars are countable or not countable. Tell me, star is countable or uncountable? I can say 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. Stars are countable. Even if there are millions and trillions of stars, stars are countable. Okay, right? Stars are countable. Rajesh, they're countable. That is another matter that we humans, we are not capable of counting the number of stars because they are in such huge quantities. Okay, but I can say 10 stars, 15 stars, but money is not countable. Can I say 1 money, 2 money, 3 money, 4 money? Give me 10 money. Can I say that? No. So money is not countable. What is countable is unit of money. The unit of money is rupees. In India, it is rupees. So 1 rupee, 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 4 rupees. I can say, give me 15 rupees. Okay. So the unit of money is countable. Remember that. Money per se is not countable. The unit of money is countable. Remember that. The currency, yes, the currency is countable. Absolutely. If you have confusion whether something is countable or uncountable, simply start counting it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple. You want to find out honesty is countable or not? 1 honesty, 2 honesty, 3 honesty, 4 honesty. Not countable. 1 milk, 2 milk, 3 milk, 4 milk. Not countable. 1 sister, 2 sisters, 3 sisters, 4 sisters. Countable. $1, $2, $3, $4. Countable. Like this, right? So nouns are common, proper, collective, abstract, countable nouns and uncountable nouns. Okay, is this clear now? Should I move to the next thing? Yes, okay. If you have a confusion, please stop me, okay? We are in no rush. Please stop. Now, nouns also have genders. There are some names that we use for males. Those names that are used for males, they are said to be in masculine gender. Those names that are used for females, they are said to be in feminine gender. Those names that can be used for either a male or a female, that means it can be used for both male and female, they are called common genders. And those names that are neither male nor female, because the thing that we're talking about is normally without life, then it is said to be in neuter gender. Okay, for example, husband. Husband is masculine gender. Wife is feminine gender. Spouse. Spouse is common gender. Spouse can apply to both husband and wife. Other examples of common gender are words like child, parent, spouse. All these are common genders. They can be used for both males as well as females. Okay. Now there are certain things that are without life. They are neither male nor female. They are called neuter gender. For example, desk, pen. Desk and pen, they are neither male nor female. They are neuter gender. Okay. So remember, there are 4 genders of noun: masculine gender, feminine gender, common gender, and neuter gender. So if a noun is talking about a male, it's said to be masculine gender. If a noun is for a female, it's feminine gender. If a noun can be used for both male and female, it is common gender. And if it is used for something that is neither male nor female, it is neuter gender. Okay, is this clear? Then we come to something called case. Now this is important. Nouns. In a sentence, noun can either be the subject of the sentence, or noun can be in the predicate of the sentence. Predicate of the sentence means noun is in the objective case. Or nouns can tell you about possession. They can tell you what somebody possesses. Depending on its position, depending on its role in the sentence, whether it is a subject, whether it is an object, or whether it shows possession. Depending on its role in the sentence, its form can change. Its form can change means its spelling can change. Sometimes we can write it. Sometimes we will write it as A. Sometimes we will write it as AA. Sometimes we will write it as AAs, like this. So there are actually 3 cases. There are 3 cases of noun. 3 cases of noun mean noun. In a sentence, noun can be found in 3 positions. Either nouns can be subjects, either noun can be in the objects of the sentence, or nouns can show possession. These are called cases, noun cases. To better understand this, very quickly let's take a look. Sentence number 1 says John threw a stone, and sentence number 2 says the horse kicked the ball. In the first statement, there are two nouns, John and Stone. In the second sentence, also there are two nouns, the horse and boy. However, John and the horse, they both are subjects of the sentence. Whereas stone and boy, they are the objects of the sentence. They are in the predicate of the sentence. Okay? So we say that whenever a noun or a pronoun, this is applicable for pronoun also. And in fact, I am discussing this in noun because I want to prepare you for the pronoun. When you come to pronouns, in pronouns, they are going to test you a lot on pronoun cases. They will not so much test you on noun cases, but yes, pronoun cases, they will test you a lot. So in order to help you understand the concept of cases, I am discussing it here in detail. So remember, whenever a noun or pronoun is used as the subject of the sentence, it is said to be in the subjective case. So both John and horse are in the subjective case. Whenever a noun or pronoun is used as the object of the verb or as the object in the sentence, it is said to be in the objective case. So stone and boy, both of these nouns are in the objective case. Okay? John and horse, subjective case. Stone and boy, objective case. Now why are we discussing this? We are discussing this because in nouns, even if you change the position of the noun from subjective to objective or vice versa, from objective to subjective, the form of the noun does not change. The form of the noun does not change means the form remains the same. For example, Hari broke the window and the window was broken. Over here, Hari is the subject, window is the object. It's also a noun. Window is also a noun. The name of the thing that was broken by Hari is called window. Okay, window is also object. It is noun. Now, in second sentence, I'm saying the window was broken. Now, window is subject. And it's a noun. But whether it is subject or object, window is written as window. There's no change in its form. So what do we see? It is seen that nouns in English, they will have the same form for the subjective and the objective case. But this is not true in pronouns. In pronouns, everything changes. In fact, in pronouns, the change is so drastic that they test you a lot on pronouns. Okay? Nouns, nothing changes. Whether it is subject or object, the form remains the same. The only difference is that the subjective case comes before the verb, objective case comes after the verb. That is the only difference. Before the verb, if you find a noun, it is in all probability in the subjective case. After the verb, if you find a noun, it is in all probability in the objective case. Did you understand this objective and subjective case of nouns? Yes, okay. There is a third case also. For nouns, there is a third case. For pronouns, there are 4 cases, but for nouns, there is a third case. 2 we have discussed, subjective and objective. Window remains window, whether it is subject or object. But if I want to show possession, if I want to show that something is possessed by a noun, something is owned by a noun, then I change the form. I add an apostrophe in S. So I don't say this is Ram umbrella. I say this is Ram's umbrella. So what happens if I want to show possession? The form of the noun Ram is changed to Rams with an apostrophe S. If I want to show ownership or possession, this noun which shows possession is said to be in the possessive case. Okay, so in the possessive case, you can see some changes in the form. Normally, for nouns, if we want to convert them to the possessive case, we normally add an apostrophe and also an S. There are many times when we don't add the S, we just add an apostrophe. So now the question is, if there is a noun We know subjective and objective case is same. So need no change is required. Tree remains tree whether it is used as the subject or the object of the sentence. There's no difference. But if I want to show possession, if I want to show that something is owned by a tree, then how can I convert a noun into the possessive case? Should I just add an apostrophe and s to all the nouns? Will it automatically be converted to the possessive case? The answer is no. Okay. So the last thing that we will discuss for nouns is how to convert noun into the possessive case. And then we are done with nouns. How to convert nouns into the possessive case? That will depend on the situation. If the noun does not end in an S, then you add an apostrophe and S to it. For example, the boy's book, the king's crown. So whose book is this? Boy's book. Whose crown is this? Who owns this crown? Who possesses this crown? The king. Men's club. Whose club is this? Men's. Children's books. So these books belong to children. So if a noun does not end in an S, add an apostrophe and S. But if a noun ends in an S, then just add an apostrophe. Don't add another S. Okay? The second rule is if the noun ends in an S, then only add an apostrophe. Don't add another S. It is boys' school, girls' school, horses' tails. And in fact, there are situations where even if a word does not end in an S, or even if a word ends in an S, many times what we do, we just put an apostrophe. We don't add another S. Why we do this? Because if the word is such, if I add an apostrophe and after that I put another S, then there's going to be too many hissing sounds. If too many hissing sounds will come together, then we normally avoid adding another S. For example, when I read the word conscience, conscience is noun. I want to make the possessive case. How will I read it? Conscience's sake. Conscience's sake. So there's a lot of sound, hissing sound. Because there's a lot of hissing sound, I just put an apostrophe. I don't add another S. Similarly, goodness. Goodness is noun. If I want to convert it into the possessive case, if I add an S after the apostrophe, the pronunciation is going to be goodness's sake. There's going to be too many hissing sounds, and that is why we just add an apostrophe. So generally what do we do? The general rule is that if the noun does not end in an S, put an apostrophe and an S. You should make sure that there are not too many hissing sounds. If too many hissing sounds are coming, then avoid the S. Just put an apostrophe. That's it. If the noun ends in an S, then just add an apostrophe. Don't add another S. This is the second situation. Third situation is if a noun, if somebody's name consists of several words, then you attach the possessive sign to the last word only. For example, this is the complete name. This is the complete designation or name. The King of Bhutan. So in this name, Bhutan is last word. So we add an apostrophe to Bhutan. Whose visit is this? The King of Bhutan's visit. Whose speech is this? The Prime Minister of India's speech. So Prime Minister of India is the title for the person who's incumbent on that chair, on the Prime Minister's chair. So in this name, the last word is India, and that is why we put an apostrophe and S only to the last word. Okay, this is the third situation. The fourth situation is if there are two nouns and you want to show joint possession. You want to show that something is jointly owned by these two people. then you are going to put the possessive sign only to the latter name, the last one. Okay, for example, pay attention, Kareem and Salim's bakery. This means if I put an apostrophe S only with Salim over here, this means that this bakery is owned both by Kareem and Salim. If I say William and Mary's Rain, I put an apostrophe to the latter, Mary's. That means it is both William and Mary's Rain. But if I'm using two or more nouns and I want to show separate possession, then I'm going to use separate possessive sign with all of them. If I say goldsmiths and Cowper's poems, these are two different poems, one by Goldsmith, one by Cowper. Gardeners and Green's histories. These are two different histories, one by Gardiner, one by Green's. So if I want to show separate possession, then put an apostrophe S with all the nouns. If you want to show joint possession, then put an apostrophe S with the latter name. That is how you convert it into the possessive case. Okay, is this clear? And this table, in very short, this table will tell you how exactly it works. You can see, if you look at cat, cat becomes cats with an apostrophe S, but objective case remains cat. There's no change. So subjective case and objective case, there is no change. You take any noun, there is no change. Yes, you see some changes in the possessive case, depending on whether it ends in an S or it does not end in an S. This is what you need to remember as far as nouns are concerned. Anything you did not understand in nouns, whatever we discussed, this is what is required. Okay? Okay, even though there are so many things we can discuss, but I think they are not required. This is the basic information which you need to keep in mind. Now I'm going to talk about pronouns. These are the most difficult, most important. Pronouns are very important. They're tested a lot. What is a pronoun? A pronoun is that word which is used instead of a noun or another pronoun. So it is a substitute word. Okay. Why do we use pronoun? We use pronouns because we want to avoid repetition. For example, India is a democratic country. India has 56 languages. India has these many states. India has a coastline. India has Himalayas also. Every time I have to say India, 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 India. So in order to avoid repetition, instead of using India, I can say it. India is a democratic nation. It has so many languages. It also has a coastline. It has third largest army in the world, for example. So it. Why do I use a pronoun? I use a pronoun to avoid repetition. So remember, a pronoun gets its meaning from the noun that it stands for. Okay, because a pronoun is substituting a noun. So a pronoun will get its meaning from the noun that it stands for, and this noun is called an antecedent. It is called an antecedent or precedent. Precedent also, many books will use the terminology precedent. For example, if you say, although Mumbai is humid, it is my favorite city. So rather than saying, although Mumbai is humid, Mumbai is my favorite city, instead of Mumbai, I use it. So it is the pronoun and its antecedent is Mumbai. So it stops repetition. Okay, pronouns stop repetition. Okay. Now what is it in pronoun? I'm not going to discuss errors with you. I'll just discuss kinds of pronouns. What are the kinds of pronouns? First, very important, personal pronouns. What are personal pronouns? Personal pronouns are those pronouns which when you use, you know exactly who you're talking about. Okay? And you can change this pronoun according to person, number, gender, and case. Personal pronoun is the pronoun that you use when you refer to a specific person or thing. That means when you use these pronouns, you know exactly who you're talking about. For example, if you say, he is not a good boy, he did not help me, you know exactly who you're talking about. When you are using the pronoun he, you know exactly who you're talking about. Similarly, if you're using the pronoun it helped me a lot. It is highly advisable. You know exactly what you're talking about. So you take any personal pronoun. All these are examples of personal pronouns. When you use personal pronouns, you know exactly who you're talking about. And they change. If it is a male, you use he. If it is a female, you use she. If it is one person, you use I or you. If there are many people, you use we, our. So personal pronouns, they keep changing. They change their form according to person, number, gender, case. They don't remain the same. Okay. Now I told you in pronouns they will test you a lot, but what are they going to test you? That is something which we will discuss when we have a separate session on pronoun errors. Right now I am just talking about the basics of pronouns. First kind of pronoun which is most commonly used is called a personal pronoun. Personal pronouns are those pronouns that refer to specific person or thing. When you use these pronouns, you know exactly who you're talking about. Okay. Now another thing which even if you don't, even if you want to forget this information, it's all right. But I thought that because we are discussing so many things, why just leave this one? Now personal pronouns, if you want to go into slightly more detail, personal pronouns can be of the first person, second person, or third person. Okay. So personal pronoun can be of first person, second person, third person. The pronouns which denote the person or people speaking, those pronouns that are used for people who are speaking, who are actually talking, those pronouns are called pronouns of the first person. They are the first person pronouns. For example, I don't like him. I told him to go there. We did not do this. So I, we, these are people who are speaking. These pronouns are called pronouns of the first person. But when you say I told you to go there, so you are speaking to someone. This word you refers to a person spoken to. It denotes a person who's listening to what you want to say. So it is a person who's spoken to. This pronoun is said to be in the second person. Now I may be talking to you about a third person. That third person who is spoken about, the pronouns that we use for that person, pronouns like he, she, and they are said to be in the third person. So pronouns, personal pronouns can be of three kinds: first person, second person, third person. First person are those pronouns that that talk about people who are speaking. Second person pronouns are those that talk about people who are listening or who are spoken to. And third person pronouns are those pronouns who talk about people who are spoken about, who are discussed. Okay. First person, second person, third person. These are three forms of personal pronouns. You can see some examples here. Even if you forget this table, not a big deal. But you can see when you use words like I, me, my, mine, we, us, our, and ours. All these are for people who are speaking. These are used for people who are speaking. These are used for people who are listening. And all these are used for people who we are talking about. People or things we are talking about. So at leisure, you can go through all this, all this table. Right now, it is sufficient to understand that there are three kinds of personal pronouns. Now remember one very important thing in personal pronouns. In personal pronouns, if there is any personal pronoun, okay, if you want to show possession, if you want to show possession. For example, this is his book. This book is hers. This book is theirs. Okay. So these pronouns that you see, his, hers, theirs, these pronouns tell you what something belongs to a person, isn't it? They show possession. It shows possession. One very important thing I want you to understand, because this is something which they will test you a lot. If it is a personal pronoun and you are showing possession, you are showing that something belongs to that pronoun, never add an apostrophe in that S. Never. Never add an apostrophe in the possessive form of personal pronouns. Okay. So I'll reiterate. Remember that possessive personal pronouns like mine, yours, hers, his, its, ours, theirs, these all show a sense of belonging. Please don't confuse them with contractions. Personal pronouns are something else and contractions are something else. Remember this, very, very important. Personal pronouns will never have an apostrophe. Contractions will always have an apostrophe. So the favorite, when as far as error correction is concerned, the favorite thing that I'm going to test is its and its. Are they the same? Are these two words same? No. If it has an apostrophe, it means it is. वो है. This is how this is interpreted. It is. It exists. It means belongs to it. So there's a huge difference. Just one apostrophe and there's a huge difference. So remember, personal pronouns will never have an apostrophe. Yours will never have an apostrophe. It's, their, whose. Whereas contractions, your, YOU apostrophe R. It's a short form. Contraction means short form. Contraction means nothing but short form. So remember, there's a difference between possessive case of pronouns and short forms. It means it is. They are. It means they are. Who apostrophe S means who is. These two words are not the same. In fact, this is something that they test a lot. If you're preparing for GMAT, in GMAT, every single error correction question they will test you on this. They know that students get confused. Every single question they test you on it. So please don't confuse. If it is a personal pronoun will never have an apostrophe. Whenever it is showing possession, it will never have an apostrophe. So don't confuse personal pronouns with contractions. Did you understand? Is this clear? Okay. Okay. So I think this was the main part I wanted to discuss. There are 2-3 other kinds of pronouns that we will discuss now. Then we are done with pronouns also. Many times you will see that the word self or selves is added to a pronoun. When the word self or self is added to a pronoun and it conveys, what does it convey to you? It conveys that whatever action was performed by the subject, it is coming back upon the subject. Then that pronoun is called a reflexive pronoun. So what is a reflexive pronoun? Reflexive pronoun is a pronoun that ends in self or selves, and it is used when you want to say that an action that was done by the subject is coming back upon the subject. It is reflecting back. So I hurt myself. So I hurt, not a third person, not a second person, myself. People fool themselves all the time. Who do the people fool? Themselves. This action is coming back on the people. We need to find it ourselves. So this action, we will have to do it on our own. So when you add self or selves to a pronoun and you want to say that an action reflects back upon the subject, it is called reflexive pronoun. Okay. The difference is reflexive pronouns are used in the object of the sentence. They are used in the object of the sentence. However, the object refers to the same person or thing which is denoted by the subject. That means the subject and object are the same even though they're written differently. In subject, I have written I. In object, I have written myself. In subject, I have written people. In object, I have written themselves. In subject, I have written we. In object, I have written ourselves. But in reality, the subject and object are same, but they are written in two different ways. This is reflexive pronoun. Very simple. Now, there's another pronoun called emphatic pronoun or intensive pronoun. This is not very important, but because we in India, we use it a lot, that is why I wanted to discuss this. Again, the form is same. In an emphatic or intensive pronoun, we add the word self or selves to the pronoun. Okay. And we use it. Why do we use it? We use it only to emphasize. They are not necessary for the meaning of the sentence. We can do without it. Just because we want to emphasize, I myself cooked the food today. There was no need to say myself. If you say I cooked the food today, it means you yourself have cooked it. But just to emphasize, you have used myself. Siddharth himself said that he would pick up the kids. There's no need to use himself. You could have said Siddharth said that he would pick up the kids. It means the same. They themselves are responsible for the mess. There was no need to use the word themselves. So when you use a pronoun just for emphasis, and these pronouns end in self or selves, they are called emphatic or intensive pronouns. Okay. Now, one thing very important is that emphatic pronouns, they cannot act as subjects. You will need subjects before them. But in India, whenever we introduce ourselves, we always start with an emphatic pronoun and say myself. Myself, so and so. That is how you introduce yourself. Myself saw him do it. That's not correct. That's not correct. Because myself over here is an emphatic pronoun. It is used just for emphasis. It is not a reflexive pronoun. Why? Because no action is coming back on the subject. So it is used as an emphatic pronoun, and emphatic pronouns cannot stand alone as subjects. You should have said, I myself saw him do it. And when you are introducing yourself, you should not say myself so and so. Myself Amit Gupta. That's wrong. You should say I am Amit Gupta. Okay? So emphatic pronouns cannot stand alone as subjects. If you say myself Amit Gupta, then you are using myself as a subject, which is wrong. Any discomfort till here? Anybody? Okay. Right. Now, indefinite pronouns. These are also important. What are indefinite pronouns? These are antonyms of personal pronouns. You remember personal pronouns, when we use personal pronouns, they are used for specific people. We know exactly who we are talking about. When we use indefinite pronouns, we don't know exactly who we are talking about. We refer to people or things in a general way. We don't refer to any person or thing in particular. These pronouns are called indefinite pronouns. So if I say anyone can accept my challenge. I'm not talking about any particular person. Anyone, one person from this 6 billion people on this planet. Anyone. If you say someone has stolen my book, I don't know who, but there is one person, out of the 6 billion people on this planet who has stolen my book. So you don't know who exactly that person is. So these pronouns are called indefinite pronouns. All, anyone, anything, everybody, everyone, anything, some, someone, all these are indefinite pronouns. Okay, we'll discuss more about indefinite pronouns when we come to pronouns and subject-verb agreements. As of now, I think this much is sufficient. Indefinite pronouns are those pronouns that are not specific. We use it when we are talking about things or people in general. We are not referring to anybody in particular. Okay? Relative pronouns. Now these are tested a lot. These are tested a lot. What are relative pronouns? Very simple. Those pronouns that can also act as conjunctions. Okay, those pronouns that also act as conjunctions, that means they join two sentences. They are called relative pronouns. I know that boy who is coming. Bring me the letters which the postman left. This is the house that Jack built. If you look at these three pronouns, who, which, and that, these are all joining two sentences. Rather than saying, I know that boy is coming, I use the word who and then join them. Or rather than saying, bring me the letters were left by the postman, I simply use the word which and I connect these two sentences. And I can say, this is the house. This house was built by Jack. Instead of saying that, I use the word that and I connect these two sentences. So these words, these pronouns that also they also join the parts of sentences. They not only substitute nouns, but they also act as conjunctions. They are called indefinite. They are called relative pronouns. Okay, they are called relative pronouns. And the good news is that there are only 5 relative pronouns. There are only 5 relative pronouns, and these 5 relative pronouns are very important. Very important and tested a lot. What are these 5? These 5 relative pronouns are who, which, that, whom, and whose. Do you know when to use the word who and when to use the word whom? Who or whom did you give this book to? What are you going to say? Who or whom? Who or whom is this movie about? What are you going to say? Who or whom? You need to know. Similarly, do you know that you cannot use which and that in the same way? Which and that, they are not interchangeable. When you use the word which, this is the book which you gave me, this is the book that you gave me. These two sentences do not mean the same. Okay, so they test you a lot. They are going to test you a lot. These are 4. Out of these 5 relative pronouns, they normally don't test you on this one. They don't test you on whose. But they test you a lot on who or whom, what is the difference between who, whom, and what is the difference between which and that. That is something which they test you a lot on. Okay, so we will discuss this in detail. Right now, I am just telling you that these are relative pronouns. There are only 5 relative pronouns, and relative pronouns are those pronouns that work like conjunctions. They work like conjunctions, they join sentences. Okay, there are only 5 relative pronouns, remember that. Now, what is the difference? These are something which we will discuss in some further class. Okay, one last thing about pronouns is interrogative pronouns. What are interrogative pronouns? Interrogative pronouns are those that are used to ask questions. So who, whom, which, what, and the compounds. And the compounds means when I add the word ever to them, all of them become interrogative pronouns. Who are you talking to? Whom are you talking to? Which book is this? What are you doing? Whatever you want to do, All these are asking questions. They are used to ask questions, and that is why they are called interrogative pronouns. Now you may ask that right now I told you who, whom, which, they are relative pronouns. Right now I told you. Now see, any word keeps changing, its role according to the use that it is being put to. If I am using the word who, whom, and which to join two sentences, only then it is a relative pronoun. Otherwise, if I'm asking these words to ask questions, then they are interrogative pronouns. Okay. If I'm using these words to ask questions, then they are interrogative pronouns. If I'm using these words to join sentences, then they are relative pronouns. So remember, same word can in one situation become interrogative pronoun, in other situation it can become relative pronoun. So don't think that if one word is a certain kind of pronoun, it is always that kind of pronoun. No. Did you understand? So what have we discussed till now? What have we discussed till now? Till now we have discussed about sentence. What is a sentence? I discussed that there are four kinds of sentences: declarative, interrogative, okay, then exclamatory and imperative. Four kinds of sentences. We also discussed that sentences have two parts: subjects and predicates. And we discussed that every single word that we use in a sentence, it actually is it's a part of speech. It's a role that it's playing. There is some kind of work it is doing in the word, in the sentence. There are 8 different parts of speeches. We discussed nouns. Noun is that word which tells you the name of something. We have common noun, proper nouns. We have countable nouns, uncountable nouns. We have collective nouns. We have abstract nouns. Nouns can be masculine gender, feminine gender, common gender, neuter gender. And nouns have 3 cases: subjective case, objective case, and possessive case. We saw that nouns, for nouns, the subjective case and the objective case always remains the same. There's no difference. But yes, the possessive case, the form changes. We generally put an apostrophe and an S if we want to convert it into the possessive case. That is what we discussed about nouns. Then we discussed pronouns. Pronouns are words that substitute nouns. Okay, so pronouns will have an antecedent. Antecedent means the noun that the pronoun is substituting. Now, pronouns can be of different kinds. If I'm talking about a specific person, then the pronoun I'm using is called personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are further divided into 3 parts: first person, second person, third person. And personal pronouns will never have an apostrophe whenever they want to show possession. That information was very important. This is personal pronoun. Apart from personal pronouns, we have emphatic pronouns that are used only for emphasis. Then we have reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns are used when we want to talk about, action being directed on the subject. Then we have indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns are pronouns which we use when we don't know, we are not talking about anybody in particular. Then we have relative pronouns. 5 relative pronouns that work as conjunctions. And finally, we have interrogative pronouns, those pronouns through which we ask questions. And the compounds also. I can add the word ever, whoever, whomever, whatever, whichever. These also are interrogative pronouns. So this, I think, will conclude our pronouns over here. This is what as of now, I want you to know about pronouns. We will need all these terms, okay? All these terms that we are discussing, you will come across these terms later on. So I think before your next session or before we start error correction, you will have to go through this PPT again. Till now, anybody has any problem? I know there's a lot of information in one session, but can't help it. Okay. One last thing that we will discuss today is adjectives. The last part of speech that we will discuss today is adjectives. Now, in adjectives, we'll discuss only those things that are tested. Okay. What exactly is an adjective? Any word which tells you, any word which describes or tells you about the quality or gives you description about something or someone. Any word which points out somebody or something, or any word which tells you about number or quantity is called an adjective. You can see examples here. Shruti is a clever girl. What kind of a girl she is? What kind? The word which tells you what kind of something is called an adjective. I don't like that boy. Which boy? The word which points out somebody or something is called adjective. He gave me 5 mangoes. How many mangoes? 5. That word which tells you how many is an adjective. There is little time for preparation. How much time is there? Little. That word which tells you how much is there, that is also adjective. Okay. So adjectives, adjectives have what functions to adjective? What function does adjective perform? Adjectives can describe somebody or something. Adjectives can point out somebody or something. Or adjectives tell you about number or quality of something, or quantity. Number or quantity of something. So words which describe something or somebody, words that point out somebody or something, or words that tell you about number or quantity, they are called adjective. Okay? 5 is a countable noun. 5 is an adjective. Numbers are adjectives, Sharad. As a noun, I can use it as a noun also. But over here, I'm talking about 5 mangoes. In this case, 5 is adjective. If I say 5 is my favorite number, if I say 5 is my favorite number, then 5 is a noun. Why? Because I'm telling you the name of my favorite number. The name of my favorite number is 5. Okay, Sharad? In this example that you see on the screen, he gave me 5 mangoes. Over here in this sentence, the word 5 is used as an adjective. But yes, 5 can also be a noun, but only if you are using it in the sense of noun. Did you understand, Sharad? Okay. See what happens. Probably what you are thinking is, how can this word 5? How is it possible that over here it is adjective? Sometimes I'm saying it is noun. Sometimes I'm saying it is adjective. Okay. The same word in different situation, it can become noun. In different situation, it can become adjective. Same word in one situation can become noun. In another situation can become verb. In okay. So word, what is going to be its part of speech is not, it's not fixed. It depends on what role it is performing in the sentence. Okay. What is the question? 5 is a favorite number. Okay. What kind of number is it? Favorite. Favorite is adjective. Sharad. The word favorite in your example, in your sentence, what kind of a number is it? It's a favorite number, isn't it? So favorite is adjective in your sentence. 5 is noun. In your sentence, 5 is noun. No, Santosh, he is not talking about this one. Yes, in in sentence number 3 on the screen that you see, 5 is an adjective and mango is a countable noun. Yes, mango is a countable noun. Absolutely, Santosh. You are right. But Sharad, I think you are talking about something else. Is it clear? Yes. Now, did you understand what is happening? Okay. So I told you adjectives. Adjectives, they perform the function of describing, pointing out, or telling you about number or quantity. And that is why. Because adjectives tell you of what kind somebody or something is, how much is there, how many, or which one. That is why there are three different kinds of adjectives. Those adjectives that tell you of what kind somebody or something is. The terminology says they are adjectives of quality or descriptive adjectives. Okay, they are adjectives of quality or descriptive adjectives. Those adjectives that tell you how many, how much, they are adjectives of quantity. Those adjectives that point out to you, they are called demonstrative adjectives. So there are three kinds of adjectives: adjectives of quality, adjectives of quantity, and demonstrative adjectives. Very simple. Okay. Now, what is it in adjectives that they test? What is it in adjectives that they test? They test you on comparison of adjectives. That is something which we will discuss now. Comparison of adjectives. Now you will have to read the sentences carefully. Sentence number 1 says Yash's mango is sweet. Okay. What sentence number 1 does? In number 1, what does it tell you is, what quality does the mango have? You just know that it is sweet. That's it. You just know that Yash's mango has the quality of sweetness. However, you don't tell me how much of this quality it has. Because you just tell me that it is sweet. How much it has, you don't know. Why? Because unless you make a comparison, how will you know how much is there? Right? Did you understand? So Yash's mango is sweet. Over here, sweet is an adjective. It is just telling you that Yash's mango has some quality. But if I say Yash's mango is sweeter than Purhan's, now I am making a comparison in the sweetness of two mangoes. The moment I use the word sweeter, this is also adjective. But in this adjective, what I'm doing is, I'm comparing the sweetness of two mangoes. And if I say Yash's mango is the sweetest of all, this also is adjective. Now over here, I'm comparing the sweetness of Yash's mango with all the mangoes. With the sweetness of all the mangoes. So there are many mangoes. I'm comparing the sweetness of all these mangoes. So what does this tell us? This tells us that adjectives change their spelling. Adjectives change their form depending on whether you are comparing or not comparing. If you are not comparing, then adjective is said to be in the base form. If you are comparing two things and you are using an adjective, it is said to be in the comparative form. If you are using an adjective and comparing more than two things, it is said to be in the superlative form. So again, I'll reiterate that adjectives change in form. From sweet, it became sweeter. From sweeter, it became sweetest. And why do we see this change in form? In order to show comparison. Okay. So these three adjectives, sweet, sweeter, sweetest, there are three different terms for them. The adjective sweet is said to be in the positive degree. Okay. Positive degree adjectives are those when no comparison is made. You just mention, you just denote the existence of a quality. You don't make any comparison. Then that adjective is said to be in the positive degree. But adjectives like sweeter is used when you compare two things. These adjectives are said to be in the comparative degree. Okay? And adjectives like sweetest, which is used when you want to compare more than two things. When more than two things are compared, then these adjectives are said to be in the superlative degree. Now, what they will test you in the exam is whether you are using the proper degree or not. If you are comparing more than two things, you will have to use the superlative degree of adjective. If you are comparing two things, you will have to use the comparative degree of the adjective. If you are not comparing anything, you just want to mention that something, some quality exists, you will have to use the positive degree of the adjective. So they will test you whether you are using the appropriate degree or not. So now the question is, how? How do I know what is the comparative and the superlative degree of an adjective? Just like from sweet, I made it sweeter by adding ER and I converted it into sweetest by adding EST. Is that how I change all the adjectives? All the adjectives, if I want to make comparative form, do I add ER and make it comparative? And do I add EST and make it superlative? The answer is no. No, that is not how it is done. So remember, there are many adjectives. If you want to make the comparative and the superlative, just add ER or EST. If you add ER, it becomes the comparative form. If you add EST, it becomes a superlative form. Okay. For example, kind becomes kinder and kinder becomes kindest. Young becomes younger and younger becomes youngest. But there are some adjectives that are compared irregularly. What is the meaning of compared irregularly? If they are compared irregularly, it means that you cannot add ER and EST to change them into comparative and superlative. For example, little does not become littler and littlest. Little becomes less or lesser and least. Bad does not become badder and baddest. Bad becomes worse and worst. Good does not become good, gooder, goodest. Good, better, best. Okay. So these adjectives that do not form the comparative by adding ER and do not form the superlative by adding EST, they are compared irregularly. They're compared irregularly means their forms of comparative and superlative can be very different. Bad becomes not badder and baddest, but worse and worst. Little does not become littler and littlest. It becomes less and least. So you will have to, because they can test you on any adjective. If you search on Google, for the comparative and superlative degrees of adjectives, you are definitely going to get a huge table. There's a huge table that you're going to get. You need to study that table. You need to note those adjectives which are, when you change the form, then the change is very drastic. For example, bad. Bad becomes worse and worst. Good becomes better and best. Good, gooder, goodest does not work. So you should pay attention to those adjectives that are compared irregularly. That is something that you will have to do. Okay, it's your job. You will have to do it. You can Google it, and you should go through that list, and you should, wherever you find difficulty, wherever you find that this is slightly strange, mark it and learn about it. Okay, because many times they will test you on comparative and superlative degrees of the adjective. This is what they test you as far as adjectives are concerned. This is what they test you on. Okay. And the last slide for today is articles. Even though we will have a separate class on articles, we will have one separate class on articles. But remember, because we are discussing adjectives, articles are nothing but adjectives. Articles are a special type of adjective. Articles are adjective, right? And there are two kinds of articles. Definite and indefinite. Articles are two kinds, definite and indefinite. Whenever you use the, you know exactly who you're talking about. The boy, which boy you know. The school, which school you know. So that is why the is called a definite article, because it refers to a specific thing. You know exactly who you're talking about. But a and an, when you use them, you are referring to general things. You say, a boy came and gave it to me. Which boy? It's not a definite boy, a boy. Okay. An animal was crossing the road. Which animal? It's not specific. That is why a and an, they are called indefinite articles. We all know that when it comes to a and an, the rule that we have learned is if a word starts with a vowel sound, then we will use an. If a word starts with a consonant sound, then we will use a. We all know this, right? The difference between a and an is if a word starts with a vowel sound, we will use an. If a word starts with a consonant sound, we will use a. Now remember, it is vowel sound and not vowel. The sound should be vowel, right? So if I say university, even though it starts with vowel U, yes, A-E-I-O-U, vowel U, but we say a university. We don't say an university. Why? Because the sound is that Y. U-Y-O, university. The sound is that of Y. Same thing happens with European. European. A European nation. It's not an European nation, even though it is starting with a vowel E. But it's not the letter that is important, it is the sound that is important. When you pronounce European, U, the sound is that of U again. Y-O-U-U. A European country. Because the sound is consonant, that is why we use a. A university, a European, and so on and so forth. So we will discuss a lot about articles. Right now, you just need to know the European countries. I think the European countries should be there, not the Europe. Okay. I can use the Europe also, Sharad. But when I'm using the Europe, then I'm talking about a specific part of the world. If I'm talking about a specific part of the world, then I can use the Europe. For example, I can say the equator, the Europe, the coastal regions, like this. I am traveling to Europe. I'm traveling to the Europe. No, that's wrong. I'm traveling to Europe. Yes, I'm traveling to Europe. Okay, but can I not say the Europe has blocked this agreement? Europe has blocked this agreement is also right. The Europe has blocked this agreement is also right. Even though the meaning will change. Okay. So I will not discuss articles in detail right now. Articles will have a separate class. Right now, it will suffice for you to just understand that articles are nothing but adjectives. Okay, it is nothing but adjectives. He is a boy. This is an adjective. He is a boy. It is an adjective. Articles are adjectives, and articles are of two kinds: definite and indefinite. We know that when we use definite article when we are talking about something specific. We use indefinite article when we are talking about something in general. And we also know that when we want to make a choice between a and, we need to take a look at the sound of the word that will come after the article. If the sound is consonant, use a. If the sound is vowel, use an. Okay, I gave you some examples over here. Plus, there are lots of rules and regulations related to articles, lots of them, and that is why we have a separate class on articles. We'll discuss it in detail because they test you on articles in CAT. If you are a GMAT student, then they will not test you on articles. But if you are preparing for CAT and JAT, then yes, they will test you on articles as well. Okay, so I think this much is sufficient for today. This much is sufficient. We discussed lots of things. I just gave you some basic information. This was more like a recapitulation. Okay, because majority of the information I believe you are already aware. Most of the information you already were aware. Whatever is important, I discussed it. Anything that is not clear? Anything requires clarification? Please ask. Everything is clear? Okay, great. Right. So I think that's it. What should we study daily as far as VRC preparation is concerned? Start reading, Bhaskar. Start reading. Do you read? If you don't read, then start reading. Okay. Let's say if you read newspaper, but in newspaper you read editorials. Do you read editorials? You read editorials. What newspaper do you read? You don't understand. Okay, so you need to understand. You read the Hindu, so you that is what you need to do. Since when have you been reading the Hindu editorials? How many days? Last 1 month. So have patience. Bhaskar, have patience. Rome was not built in one day. When you read it slowly. Check all the, keep a dictionary in front of you. If you are stuck with any word, find the meaning of that word. Read it slowly. If you're finding the Hindu editorial to be difficult, then I think you can switch to the Times of India editorial. They are easier. You can first, for 1 month, you can go through Times of India editorial and then you can switch to Hindu. Okay? But it's not just editorials. It's not just editorials. If you want to compete in CAT, is this your first attempt, Bhaskar? If you want to compete in CAT, just editorials are not going to work. You need to do a lot of serious reading. You will need to do a lot of serious reading, okay? Okay, when we use dictionary while studying, it becomes boring. Yeah, I know it becomes boring, but is there any other way? Is there any other way? When you learn a word, you don't make it a part of your permanent vocabulary. You don't use it on a daily basis. That is why, if even when you find out what is the meaning of a word, you forget it because you don't make it a part of your everyday vocabulary. So you need to make it a part of your everyday vocabulary. You're really scared of VARC. Yeah, everybody's scared. Don't worry. Everybody is scared. I'll try my best to help you. Okay, I'll try my best. Not just you. I try my best to help everyone. Today, whatever we discussed, was it clear? Did you understand? Yes. Bhaskar, what about you? Yes, you did understand. So if you have understood all this, then don't worry. Whatever we will discuss, you will understand everything. Okay. The groundwork that you need to do is you need to challenge yourself as far as reading is concerned. You need to read material that you don't normally read. You need to read material which you find boring. Even if you find it boring, you need to persist. That is what you need to do. There are so many books, Bhaskar. So many books. First understand Hindu editorial first. Then we'll talk about other books. Okay? Okay. So I think that's it for today. Anybody has any query? Fine. We are going to now meet on Friday. Friday, same time, 6 to 8 for the second part of grammar review. Yes. I will not keep everyone waiting. If you would like to log off, you can log off. I'll see you on Friday, 6 to 8. Take care, all of you. If you have any query, I'm here for another 5 minutes. Abhijit, what is your query? Yesterday, what? There was no verbal session yesterday. There was no verbal session yesterday. This week, this is the first session of verbal. Don't you have the schedule on WhatsApp uploaded? It's uploaded on WhatsApp. There was no verbal class on Monday and Tuesday. We started verbal class today. Grammar review. Okay? Okay. Do I have to remember vocab from vocab list? Yes. In fact, we will take up a lot of vocabulary classes. We will discuss a lot of words. Okay. But I think you should study Barron's word list. GRE Barron's word list. I'm just typing it. Wait. Uh, just go through Barron's word list. I think there are 4,500 words in that list. Out of these 4,500 words, I think 2,000, 2,500 words you will already be aware. You will already be aware of these 2,000, 2,500 words. For the remaining words, you will have to struggle a little bit. And when we have vocabulary sessions, we will discuss lots of words. Don't worry. Right? Okay. So I think I should end the session now. Take care, all of you. Good evening. Am I audible to you? Yes? Okay. So let us start with our next session of grammar review. In the previous session, we discussed nouns, adjectives, and verbs. These were the major things that we discussed. We are going to discuss the remaining parts of speech today and plus a little bit more extra information. Is there anything you did not understand in the previous session? Anything that requires clarification, please ask. Now is the time. Okay, good. So now we'll come to the next part, and we are done with adjectives, we are done with nouns and pronouns. The most important part of speech is verbs. Verbs is something that they're going to test you a lot on. What exactly is a verb? Now, number one, verb is that word which tells you what someone or something is doing or does. That means verb tells you what action is happening or what action happens. So verb denotes action. For example, if I say he runs fast, ask yourself, what does he do? He runs. We played tennis yesterday. What did you do yesterday? Played. Okay, you played tennis. The moon shines at night. What does the moon do at night? The moon shines. So these words like runs and played and shines, they all action, they all denote action. And that is why they're also called action verbs, or plain, they are simply called verbs. However, verbs don't just tell you about action. In fact, there is a second objective of verbs. Apart from telling you what is happening or what somebody is doing, verbs also tell you what somebody is or has. Okay, so verbs do not only denote action, verbs also denote what somebody or something is or has. That means verbs can tell you about a person's state or position. State or possession. In what state someone is or what a person possesses. Now, words that tell you about state and words that tell you about possession, they are limited. Okay, they are limited. Action verbs are innumerable. But those verbs that tell you about state or possession, they are just a few, like be, am, is, are, was, were. These these are actually called state verbs. They are called state verbs. They tell you in what state someone is. And then you have words like have, has, had. Have, has, had. These words, they are possession verbs. They tell you what somebody possesses. Okay, collectively they are called state verbs, possession verbs, or also linking verbs. So verbs that tell you about state or possession, they are called linking verbs. Okay. Why are they called linking verbs? Because they do not denote any action. They don't tell you about any action that is happening. What they do is that they link the subject with the predicate. They link one part of the sentence with the other. So they act like a bridge. For example, if you look at these two sentences, number one says, she is intelligent, and number two, he has a pen. Now, in both the sentences, no action is happening. Nobody's doing anything, right? But these two verbs, is and has, they are both linking the subject with the predicate. That is why many books call them linking verbs. Okay, so these verbs, they either talk about a state in which somebody is, or talk about that person's possession. So she is intelligent. So in which state is she? She is intelligent. She is rich. So what is her state? She is rich. Or he has a pen, right? So remember, verbs, they perform 2-3 functions. The most important function is verbs tell you about action, what is happening or what somebody does. Verbs can also tell you in what state someone is, and verbs can also talk about possession. Now also remember that sometimes verbs are not just a single word. Sometimes verbs, they can be more than one word. Okay, so a verb is not always one word. There are many times in which it can consist of more than one word. Now, when is it going to have more than one word? When it also brings time into the picture. Okay, when it also brings time into the picture. Time of what? Time of action, time of state, time of possession. Okay, for example, I may, when I play tennis, it's possible that I played tennis in the past. It's possible that I'm playing tennis presently. And it's possible that I will play tennis in the future. Okay, so if I want to denote that action is happening in different time periods, or some possession is uh, s- uh, some possession is spread over different time periods, or somebody is in a particular state in different time periods, then we actually we this is called tenses. That is called tenses, and the moment you add tenses, verbs are no longer one word, because one word is verb, but the other one is going to tell you about the time. I have phoned Amit. So this is the action here, and have is telling you that this is something that happened in the past. I will come tomorrow. So come is the verb here, and will is telling you when you will come, the time of action. The book has been found. So again, the time. He has been driving slowly, the time. So remember, verbs normally, they are not one word if you want to specify the time of action, state or possession. And then what comes into play? These are actually called tenses, and we'll have a separate class on tenses. Right now, this much is sufficient for you to understand. Okay. Now, what is important is that verbs can be of many kinds. Verbs can be of many kinds. Okay. But one very important distinction is that some verbs are transitive and some verbs are intransitive. What is the meaning of transitive? A verb is transitive if after the verb you require an object to complete the meaning. Without the object, the meaning is not going to be complete. If I simply say the boy made, will you understand? I will not make complete sense. You would like to know what is it that the boy made. Some object is required after the verb made. This is the verb. After the verb made, I require an object. I will have to tell you that the boy made a kite. So a kite is the object. So remember, if a verb requires an object after it to complete its sense, then that verb is said to be transitive. Okay, that verb is said to be transitive. So again, I'm reiterating, a verb such as made, which requires an object after it to complete its sense, is called a transitive verb. So if I say Hemant shut, it will not make any sense. I will have to tell you, what did he shut? Hemant shut the window. Kareem opened, open what? The door. Rahul saw what? A snake. So these are objects of the verb. The verbs shut, opened, and saw. We have objects, window, door, and snake. So verbs that require objects after them, they are called transitive verbs. Whereas if there is a verb that does not require an object after it, then it is called an intransitive verb. Okay. So if I say the boy laughed, now this is a verb. After this verb, I don't need any object. This makes sense. The boy laughed. When I say this, it makes sense. No object is required. So if after a verb no object is required, then that verb is called an intransitive verb. Okay. So a verb such as laughed that does not require an object after it to make complete sense is called an intransitive verb. You can see some examples here. It snowed. Some animals swim. The poor woman wept. So snowed, swim, wept, laughed. All these are intransitive verbs. They don't require an object after them. Okay. Why are we discussing this? Because there's a very famous question in CAT, error correction question. It goes something like this. It is sometimes. It is sometimes told that this is part 1. Part 2. Okay, you have to find out which part has an error. It is sometimes told that democratic states originated, and so on and so forth. This continues. There are 4 or 5 other statements, and you have to look at each part individually to find out whether there is an error or there is no error. Okay. Now, if you look at the statement, it is sometimes told that. Is this correct? Is this part correct? It is sometimes told that. Santosh, you are saying it is correct. Okay. It is not correct. Why it is not correct? It is not correct because told, T-O-L-D, told is a transitive verb. Okay. Told is a transitive verb. So after told, you require an object then. Okay. For example, whenever you use the word told, after the word told, don't you name the person? I told him to go there. Can you say I told to go there? I told you not to do it. I told you not to do it. Okay, I told who? You. I told them. I told him. Them, him, you. All these are objects that come after the word told. So over here, after the word told, there is no object. It is sometimes told that. It is wrong. Because if you say it is sometimes told, I need to know told whom. Okay, so it is wrong. So what should be, instead of told, what should be the word here? The word should be said. It is sometimes said that democratic states originated. Why it should be said? Because said is an intransitive verb. Okay, what is the difference between told and said? The difference is that told is a transitive verb and said is an intransitive verb. Okay, told is always a transitive verb and said is always an intransitive verb. Okay, I said you. Can you say I said you? I said him. I said them. Can you say that? No. Okay, so told is always transitive in every situation and said is always intransitive. Santosh, it's like past and continuous. Let us not bring tenses over here. Let us not bring tenses over here. It has nothing to do with tenses. If a verb is transitive, you require an object after it, full stop. There is no question of past and continuous and tenses. You are talking about something else. Okay. Whenever you use the verb told, after the verb told, you need an object. Whenever you use the verb said, you never need an object. Okay. So told is a transitive verb and said is an intransitive verb. That is the difference between the words told and said. If somebody asks you what is the difference between told and said, told is a transitive verb and said is an intransitive verb. Did you understand what happened here? Anybody has any doubt till now? Okay. Now question is, are all verbs always transitive? Are all verbs always intransitive? The answer is no. The verb told is always transitive. The verb said is always intransitive. But there are other verbs also that, depending on the usage, sometimes they become transitive, sometimes they become intransitive. So please do not think that a verb will only be transitive and the verb will only be intransitive. A verb can be both transitive or intransitive depending on its use. Some examples are here. I eat. Eat what? Fried eggs. This is transitive. There's an object there. Sharad, said is intransitive. Said is intransitive. I told you. You were not listening. I told you that the verb told is always transitive and the verb said is always intransitive. However, there are other verbs also that are not always transitive or intransitive. Sometimes they are transitive, sometimes they are intransitive. So there's a difference. Okay? If I say, I eat fried eggs for breakfast. So I have mentioned the object that I eat. What do I eat? Fried eggs. So over here, in this case, the verb eat is transitive. But if I say, I eat quickly at breakfast, it becomes intransitive. How would you know if a word is transitive or intransitive? Okay, depending on the usage. In the first example, okay, let us see. In the first example, I eat. What do you eat is mentioned. What do you eat? It's mentioned there. The object is there. Fried eggs is the object. So, if the object is there, eat is transitive. I eat. What do you eat? Is it mentioned? No. How I eat is mentioned. I eat quickly. But the object is not mentioned there. What do I eat is not mentioned there. So it is intransitive. Okay. I walked. Is there an object after it? No. It is intransitive. I walked. What do I walk? The dogs. So there's an object after walked. So it becomes transitive. Daniel drives. There's no object after drives. It becomes intransitive. Daniel drives what? A large truck. A large truck is an object. It becomes transitive. Barbara reads slowly. Okay. Now slowly is not an object. It's just telling you how she reads. It's not an object. So in this situation, reads becomes intransitive. But in the last sentence, Barbara reads what? What is it that she reads? 10 books a month. So there's an object there. It becomes transitive. So whenever I told and I said, they both are incomplete without the object. No, of course not. I said, how can you use an object after the word said? I said him. I said them. I said you. Do you use it like that? I said that. So that is not an object. Sharad, that is not an object. What did you say? That means what did you say? It is not an object. Object means there should be something that that is tangible. 10 books are tangible, large truck is tangible, dogs are tangible, fried eggs are tangible. I told you, you are tangible. I told them, they are tangible. I told him is tangible. Okay, that is not an object. Remember, don't you understand what is an object? Object is something that you can touch, feel, see. After the word said, you never have an object. Okay? I said stop. Yes, I said stop. Intransitive. Yes, stop is not an object. Okay? The word said. Remember, the verb said. But Vedanshu, that actually will be wrong. I told that. I told you that. I told you that. It is very, very uncommon to use the word told as intransitive. Okay, even though people use it. See, remember, told, it is normally transitive. Most of the cases, it is transitive. Okay, some people also use it as intransitive. Some people use it as intransitive. I told that. But it is advisable that whenever you use the word told, you always add an object there. I told him that. I told them that. Okay? Whereas the word said is intransitive. It is intransitive. So you will see in your usage when you actually when you are reading something, then most of the times you will see that whenever the word said is used, there's no object after it. Whenever the word told is used, there's an object after it. Direct and indirect speech has nothing to do with this. No, you're confusing these two concepts. Direct and indirect speech is something else, and over here we are discussing something else. After the verb, if there is an object, it is transitive. If you need an object. After the verb, if you don't need an object, okay. After the verb, if you don't need an object, then it is intransitive. Sharat, I asked. Yeah, so ask. Ask, ask can be both transitive and intransitive. I asked, I asked, I asked him. It can be both transitive and intransitive. Okay. I told you most of the verbs, sometimes they are used as transitive, sometimes they are used as intransitive. But the word told, T-O-L-D, told, most of the times, 99% of the times, it is transitive. Okay? I told him, I told them, I told you. That is how we use the word told. And 100% of the times, I think the word said is intransitive. It never takes an object after it. So remember this difference. The verb is not always a verb is not always transitive and not always intransitive. A verb can become both transitive or intransitive depending on its usage. Told is the only word which is always transitive. No, there can be other examples also. There may be other examples also. See, people, Vedanshu, remember, people actually, some people, they actually play with words. So you can never say with 100% certainty that this word can only be used in this way. I'm talking about general rule. As a general rule, told is considered transitive and said is considered intransitive. But if somebody is hell-bent on using them, if a very famous writer starts using the word said as transitive and says, and he frames a sentence like this, I said him not to do it, people accept it. What can we do? Okay? Because language is nothing but means of communication. And whenever we are communicating, we kind of tend to bend lot of rules. We bend lot of rules when we want to communicate our thoughts so that the other person can better understand. So let us not be very rigid. You just need to understand the concept that most of the times, majority of the times, told is going to be intransitive. It is going to be transitive. That means you will require an object after it. And most of the times, the word said is going to be intransitive. But if somebody is hellbent on, putting an object after said, we can't do anything. because there are many cultures where English is, not the rules are not really followed. They actually twist and turn the rules, and they twist and turn it because they want to communicate better. They can better express their feelings, and if twisting and turning it helps them better communicate, then that is what languages are for, isn't it? For example, the Americans will always say, whenever they want to express regret, they always use an expression. You know what? They will say, my bad. You must have heard the Americans, whenever they want to express regret, whenever they want to say that they are sorry, what do they say? They will say, my bad. What is the logic behind my bad? What grammar rule is followed? But every single person in the US uses this expression, my bad. So, can't help it, right? So just remember the general rule. As a general rule, verbs can be both transitive or intransitive. It's not that they're always transitive, they're always intransitive. That depends on how you use it. But what is the meaning of transitive? If after the verb an object is required, it is transitive. If after the verb object is not required, it is intransitive. That's it. Okay? But we are not done with verbs. There are other things also that we need to discuss in verbs. Apart from verbs being transitive and intransitive, verbs can also be in active and passive voice. Okay? Verbs can be in active and passive voice also. What is the meaning of the verb being in the active voice and the verb being in the passive voice? Let's take a look. If I say the teacher punished the boy, in sentence 1, who is performing the action? The teacher. The teacher is the subject of the sentence and the teacher is performing the action. When the subject is performing the action, the verb is said to be active. It is said to be in the active voice. But if you look at the second statement, it says the boy. Who is the subject? The boy. The boy was punished by the teacher. Is the boy performing the action now? No. The boy is subject, but he is not performing the action. In fact, he is the receiver of the action. Action is performed by someone else. So when the subject is not the performer of the action, then we say the verb is in the passive voice. Even though the teacher punished the boy and the boy was punished by the teacher, the meaning will somehow be the same, but the expression is different. Even though there is not much of a change in the meaning of these two sentences, they both convey the same thought, but the way of expression is different. So remember, whenever the subject is active, active means when subject is performing the action. When a subject is performing the action, then what happens? The verb is in the active voice. When the subject is not performing the action, the verb is in the passive voice. So again, you can read this in sentence 1, the subject, that is the teacher, he is the doer of the action. That means the subject is active. Okay? When the subject is the doer of the action, the verb is said to be in the active voice. Whereas in sentence 2, the subject boy, he received the punishment. He is the receiver of the action. Okay? So remember, when the subject is the receiver of the action, then the verb is said to be in the passive voice. Is this clear? Anybody has any doubt? Okay. You can see some examples here. Children love dogs. Children, subject, they love dogs. Rohan is the subject, he opened the door. The jackal is the subject, he followed the tiger. Okay. And the mason is the subject, the mason is building the wall. So all of these, they are in active voice because the subjects are performing the action. But on the right hand side, dogs are loved by children. So the dogs are not loving. They are loved by children. Dog is not active. The door was opened by Rohan. So the action was not performed by the door. The tiger was followed by the jackal. So the tiger did not perform the action. And fourth example, the wall is being built by the mason. The wall is not performing the action. So all the examples on the right hand side, they are in passive voice. And on the left hand side, they are in active voice. Is it clear? Anybody has any doubt here? So what did we learn in verbs? We learned in verbs that verbs, they denote action, they tell us about state, they tell us about possession. These are three things that verb tell us. Okay? Verbs can be transitive or intransitive. Verbs can be in active voice or passive voice. Okay? There are so many other things that we need to learn about verbs, but I think that will come later. Right now, this much is sufficient. Now I'm coming to the next part of speech, and that is adverbs. Adverbs. Adverbs, as the name suggests, adverbs are those words that add more information to verbs. That means they tell you more about verbs. Okay? And not just verbs. Adverbs, even though primarily they tell you more about verbs, they can also tell you more about adjectives and other adverbs as well. What is the meaning of telling us more about verbs? Verbs tell you about action. Adverbs tell you when the action happened, where it happened, how it happened, to what extent it happened. So if I say I run, right? What do? I run. Run is the verb here. But then I can also add some information, and I can tell you that I run slowly. So how do I run? I run slowly. This word slowly tells me how the action is performed. How? Okay. I entered. I entered. Entered the room. I entered. Wait. I entered there. I entered there. Where did I enter? Enter is the verb. Where did I enter? There. So there is an adverb. So remember, adverbs. Adverbs, they tell us how, when, where, or to what extent the action is done. Verbs tell you what action is done. Okay. Adverbs tell you how it is done, when it is done, where it is done, to what extent it is done. So I fell. What happened to me? What did I do? I fell. When? Yesterday. What do I need to do? I need to start. When? Now. Okay. I went. What did I do? I went. Where? Below. Move. Where? Up. Okay. I thought. What did I do? I thought. How did I think? Sadly. I danced. How did I dance? Badly. Okay. I finished. What did I do? I finished. To what extent I finished? Partly. I I ate it. Okay, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it. How am I going to eat it? To what extent am I going to eat it? Completely. So all these words that are telling you more about verbs, that are telling you how, when, where, to what extent the verb is going to happen, all these are adverbs. They add more information to the verbs. And I told you it's not just the verbs. It is not just the verbs. Adverbs also can tell you about adjectives and other adverbs. When I say it can modify means it can give you extra information. Okay, it gives you extra information, not just for verbs. Adverbs give you extra information for adjectives also and other adverbs also. For example, if you carefully look at these three statements, the boldly spoken words. Let's see. What kind of words are these? Spoken words. So spoken becomes adjective because it is telling you what kind of words are these. These are spoken words. How were these words spoken? Boldly. So over here, the adverb boldly is describing to you an adjective. The boldly spoken words would return to haunt the rebel. So in this sentence, what is happening? The adverb boldly is giving you extra information about the adjective spoken. In the second sentence, we urged him to dial the number more expeditiously. How was I dialing the number? How was I dialing the number expeditiously? Adverb. Because it is telling me how I was dialing the number. Okay? I was doing it expeditiously. Expeditiously means speedily. Now you're asking me to do it more expeditiously. How are you asking me to dial it? More expeditiously. So over here in sentence number 2, the adverb more is giving you extra information about another adverb expeditiously. Similarly, if I say unfortunately the bank closed at 3 today. Okay? Okay. Bank closed when? At 3 today. How did it close? Unfortunately. So the word unfortunately is telling you how it closed at 3 today. Unfortunately. So you can see it's not just verbs. It's not just verbs. Adverbs can also give you more information about adjectives and other adverbs. Okay, so you need to actually, many students are confused that, over here, how is spoken adjective? Spoken is normally a verb. Many students will say that spoken is normally a verb. Yes, it's normally a verb, but over here in this case, it's being used as an adjective because it's telling me what kind of words are these. These are spoken words. And the word which tells me what kind, those words are adjectives. Okay. So you need to have a very thorough understanding of these basic parts of speeches. Only then you'll be able to understand which word is what part of speech. So remember, this is adverbs. Adverbs. Now question is, how do we form adverb? Should I take an adjective and add ly? And automatically it becomes an adverb. So if slow is an adjective, should I add ly and make it slowly? Should I do that? In lots of cases, yes. In lots of cases, yes, but not in every case. Okay. So in lots of cases, how we form adverb we can normally form by adding ly. Okay. But there are others also. There are other situations. There are other adverbs also that do not form by adding ly. For example, more. The adverb more does not have ly. Less does not have ly. But majority of adverbs, they end in ly. Okay. This is what you need to know about adverbs. Anybody has any doubt? Is this clear? Adverbs are clear? Okay. Now we'll come to the next part of speech, prepositions. As the name suggests, prepositions are always in a preposition. That means preposition will always come before. They are words that will always come before a noun or a pronoun. Okay? After the preposition, you always have to have a noun or a pronoun. What does a preposition do? There are two objects A and B. Preposition will come before B. Okay, over here, preposition will come before B, and this preposition will tell you how are A and B related in time and space. In time and in space, how are A and B related? Physically, spatially, how are they related? Okay. So preposition is a word that will always come before a noun or a pronoun, and it will show you in what relation the person or thing denoted by the noun stands to something else. For example, this is one thing, book, and this is a table. I want to tell you what is the relationship between book and table. There can be so many relationships. The book can be on the table. The big book can be beneath the table. The book can be leaning against the table. The book can be beside the table. The book can be over the table. So all these words, on, beneath, against, beside, over, they are telling me. They are telling me in time and space, how are these two, books and table, how are they related? Where are they placed? Where are they located? Okay, because if the book is on the table, that means they are touching. If the book is beneath the table, then what happens? If the book is beneath the table, then also they are touching, but over here in the first case, the book was in the primary position. Under it you find the table. But in the second case, table is over the book. The book is leaning against the table. The book is beside the table. The book is held over the table. When you say over, that means they are not touching. So these prepositions, these words, these prepositions, they tell you how are these two objects, how are these two things, how are they related in time and space. Okay? And remember, after the preposition, you will always and always find a noun or a pronoun. Always. This noun or pronoun is called object of the preposition. It is called object of the preposition. Just like you have object of the verb, if a verb has an object, then that verb is a transitive verb. We know that. Okay? So that object is the object of the verb. Over here with a preposition also, you will always have an object. This object, this table is called object of the preposition. And the preposition and the object taken together, these two together, they are called a preposition phrase. So remember, I told you that a noun or a pronoun will always follow a preposition. This noun or pronoun is called the object of the preposition. What does a preposition do? A preposition indicates to you the temporal, spatial, logical relationship of its object to the rest of the sentence. Okay, so remember, a preposition and its object taken together. A preposition and its object taken together is called a prepositional phrase. And sometimes a prepositional phrase can be two or more than two words. Where is the chair? Under the wall. Under is the preposition and the wall is the object. Where are you? I am at home. At is the preposition, home is the object. Where did you keep it? I kept it near. Near where? The object is the beautifully crafted furniture. This is the object. So the entire thing is called a prepositional phrase. The preposition and the object together, they are called a prepositional phrase. Okay? This much is sufficient as of now for preposition. We will have a separate, we will discuss separately some common prepositions, some prepositions that are tested. But right now, is this clear? What is a preposition? What is a prepositional phrase? What is the object of the preposition? Is this clear? See, even though they may not directly test you on these things, normally they don't ask you what is the object of the preposition. Normally they don't ask you what is a prepositional phrase. But why we are discussing all this? Because let's say you are solving an error correction question. When you look at the solution, okay, when you look at the explanation why a certain answer is the correct answer, then you will find all these terms used. That time I don't want you to be confused. Right. After preposition, things become very easy. Now there are two more parts of speeches left. Conjunction. This is the seventh part of speech. Con means together. Con means together. And junct means join. So what is a conjunction? Conjunction is a word that joins words or sentences together. Very simple. All these words like and, but, for, or, yet, so, all of them are conjunctions. Okay. The only thing that you need to remember or learn in conjunction is that there are some conjunctions that are used in isolation. For example, whenever you use the word and, A and B, full stop, it makes complete sense. But there are some conjunctions that are used in pairs. Either X or Y, neither X nor Y, not only X but also Y. So either or, they are conjunctions but used in pairs. Neither nor is a conjunction used in a pair. Not only but also is a conjunction used in a pair. So conjunctions are those words that join. Everybody knows what is a conjunction. We don't need to discuss it in detail. And in fact, they never test you on conjunctions. The only thing that you need to know is as well as. Yes, as well as also is a conjunction. Some conjunctions are used in isolation. Some conjunctions are used in pairs. You can see some examples here, as well as either X or Y, neither X nor Y, not only X but also Y. That is the only thing you need to understand about conjunctions. I think if you understand this much, then you are done with conjunctions. Okay, now we come to the last part of speech, and that is interjections. What is interjection? An interjection is that word which conveys a very strong emotion. Okay, it is added to a sentence to express very strong emotion. Now, because interjections, because they are not linked grammatically to other words in the sentence, then in most of the situations, not always, but in majority of the cases, you will see that the interjections, they are set off. That means they are separated from the rest of the sentence with the help of either a comma or an exclamation mark. Okay? For example, if I say, hey, don't do that. This is separated from the main sentence. Wow, what a fabulous apartment. This interjection is separated from the remaining sentence. But that is not always true. Okay, that is not always true. Many times what we do, wow, comma. Instead of using an exclamation, I can use a comma also. I can say, I mean, there are situations where I may not use a comma also. It was an awesome. It was an awesome speech. Over here, again, it was an awesome speech. I'm trying to convey very strong emotion. I'm trying to convey very strong emotion. But in this case, you know what is happening? In this case, the word awesome is being used as an adjective. It is not being used as an interjection. Okay, so that there is no confusion whether it is being used as an adjective or an interjection. That is why it is always advisable that if you are using it as an interjection, try to separate it with the use of either a comma or an exclamation mark. That will make it clear that you are trying to use this word as an interjection. Otherwise, there can be confusion. I can say that I'm talking about the speech. I'm telling you what kind of a speech it was. What kind of a speech was it? It was an awesome speech. So awesome becomes an adjective. Even though it's conveying a strong emotion, but it becomes an adjective. So normally, to avoid confusion, we should separate the interjection with the use of a comma or an exclamation mark. Okay? That is what you need to know about interjections. Normally, they don't test you on interjections. They test you a lot on pronouns. They test you a lot on verbs. They test you many times on prepositions. In adjectives, they test you on articles. In adjectives, they test you on comparative and superlative form of the adjectives. Okay, these are things that they test you a lot. Okay? And here and there, sometimes they will test you on adverbs. Sometimes they can test you on nouns. But the majority of the times, they are going to concentrate on pronouns, verbs, and in adjectives, it is comparative, superlative, and articles. These and also prepositions. These are the most important parts of speeches as far as examinations are concerned. Now the story does not end here. We have discussed 8 different parts of speeches. Okay, these are 8 different parts of speeches. Every single word that we use belongs to one of these 8 classes. Okay, so remember, we have discussed 8 different classes of words, or as they are called, 8 parts of speech. All the words must belong to one of these 8 classes. Every single word. Every single word is either a noun, a pronoun, adjective, adverb, preposition, interjection. It is a conjunction, like this. But please do not think that a word will always and always belong to the same class. No. Sometimes a word can be used as an adjective. Sometimes the same word can be used as a noun. So remember, a word is not born a certain part of speech. It becomes a part of speech according to how you are using it in a sentence. Okay? So if I'm using it as an adjective, it becomes adjective. If I'm using it as a noun, it becomes noun. So there is no hard and fast rule that a word is always and always going to be a noun. A word is always and always going to be an adjective. That depends on our usage. Okay? For example, if I say it was a good catch, okay, catch becomes a noun. But if I say cats catch mice, what do cats do? They catch mice. So catch becomes a verb. If I say my friend has a gold watch, what kind of a watch does he have? It's a gold watch. So gold becomes adjective. Gold is a precious metal. What is the name of the precious metal? Gold. Gold becomes noun. Most people think so. What kind of people think so? Most people. Most becomes adjective. What most annoys me is his obstinacy. Okay? To what extent he annoys you? He most annoys you. So most becomes adverb in the last statement. So the same word, it can keep changing its part of speech depending on how you are using it in a sentence. Remember this. Is this clear? Please take a look. Okay. Now that we are done with parts of speeches, there are 2 other things that I need to discuss with you. One is verbals and the other one is clauses and phrases. Many people don't know what is a phrase and what is a clause. Many people don't know what is a gerund, what is an infinitive, what is a participle. So let us take a look. Let us take a look at these 2 concepts. Now again, I'm coming to verbs. Verbs, you know that verbs can be in the active voice, verbs can be in the passive voice. Verbs can be transitive, verbs can be intransitive. Verbs can be action verbs, verbs can be linking verbs. Verbs are very important. Just like there are different types of verbs, there is another categorization. Some verbs are called finite verbs and some verbs are called non-finite verbs. Okay, so there are 2 main types of verbs in English, finite and non-finite. What is the difference? Finite verbs are those verbs that will change according to the number or the person of the subject. And it will also change according to tense, according to time. For example, he swims. I will say he swims. Can I say they swims? They swim. I will have to say they swim, isn't it? So swims, the verb swims, the moment I change from singular, if I make the person plural, I have to change it from swims to swim. If I want to talk about past, I will say he swam. It swims becomes swim becomes swam. It keeps changing. So the number, the person, the tense, if you change it, the verb keeps changing. so many verbs, majority of verbs. I mean, there's so many verbs that are finite verbs. Okay, so they keep changing according to number, person. For example, run, run, I run. Okay, I run, he ran. It changes. It changes if I change the tense, right? But there are some verbs that do not change their form. Okay, they do not change their form when the number or the person of the subject changes. These verbs are called non-finite verbs. If he runs, they run. Absolutely, Vedanshu. You get the idea, isn't it? You get the idea. So those verbs that change the form, if you change the number or the person or the tense, those verbs are called finite verbs. And those verbs that do not change their form, when the number or person or of the subject changes, they are called non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs has another name called verbals. Non-finite verbs are also called verbals. Why are they called verbals? I'll tell you why are they called verbals. But remember that non-finite verbs, they have a specific term. They're also called verbals. For example, swimming. Swimming, it is a verbal. Okay, he is swimming, one person. They are swimming, many people. Okay, he went swimming, they went swimming, I will be swimming, they will be swimming. Whether you change the people, whether you change the number of people, whether you change the tense, in every case swimming remains swimming. Okay, swimming, traveling, all these are verbals. So what are verbals? Verbals are non-finite verbs. Verbals are those verbs that don't change their form when the number or person of the subject changes. They remain the same. Okay. Now question is, why are we discussing all this? We are discussing all this because the non-finite verbs that are called verbals, even though I can use them as verbs, but they can also be used as nouns and adjectives and adverbs. So the beauty is that non-finite verbs, apart from being used as verbs, they can also be used as nouns. They can also be used as adjectives. They can also be used as adverbs. So remember, what are verbals? Verbals or non-finite verbs are those words that are based on a verb, but they are not used as a verb. Rather, they are used as nouns or adjectives. If you use the word swimming as a verb, then it is a verb. But if you use the word swimming as a noun, then it becomes a verbal. If you are using swimming as an adjective, then it becomes a verbal. For example, if I say swimming is a good exercise, okay? Swimming is a good exercise. What is the name of the good exercise? Swimming. Swimming becomes noun. It's a verbal. Okay? I'm going to talk to my swimming coach. I'm going to talk to my swimming coach. What kind of a coach is he? He is a swimming coach. Swimming becomes adjective. It's a verbal. Okay? Did you understand? So when a verb is not used as a verb, but it is used as a noun or an adjective, it is called a verbal or it is called a non-finite verb. Remember this. Now there are three kinds of verbals: gerunds, participles, infinitives. Very easy to understand. Whenever I'm using a verb as a noun and it always ends in ing, it will be called a gerund. Okay? Whenever I am using a verb as an adjective, and it can be in the ing form or it can be in other form also. If I'm using a verb as an adjective and it can be both in the ing form and non-ing form, but I'm using it as an adjective, it's called participle. If I use the word to plus there is a verb, okay, and I can use it as noun, I can use it as adjective, I can use it as an adverb. If before the verb I attach the word to and I use it as noun, adjective, or adverb, it is called infinitive. Okay, so one by one, I'm going to show you. One by one, I'm going to show you. Even if you don't understand everything, just remember these concepts little bit because they will be required. Now over here, we'll start with gerunds. What is a gerund? A gerund is a verbal that always ends in ing. So they are very, very easy to locate. They always end in ing and they always function as a noun. Gerunds will always function as noun. For example, traveling might satisfy your desire for new experiences. What is the name of the activity which is going to satisfy your desire? It's called traveling. So traveling is used as a noun. It's a gerund. They do not appreciate my singing. What is the name of the activity they do not appreciate? Singing. Singing is a noun. It's the name of the activity they do not appreciate. My cat's favorite activity is sleeping. What is the name of the favorite activity of my cat? Sleeping. Sleeping is used as a noun. So traveling, singing, sleeping. All these three in these sentences they are used as nouns. They are called gerunds. Gerund will always be used as a noun and it will always be in the ing form. Anybody has any doubt? Anybody has any doubt till now? Okay. Now, after gerund, we come to participles. What is a participle? A participle is a verbal that is used as an adjective. Okay? A verbal that is used as an adjective. It can end in ing or it can also have other forms like ed. So it has some features of verbs and some of adjectives, but it is basically a type of adjective. So even though it's a verb, it's used as an adjective. And because it is used as an adjective, they can only and only come before nouns or pronouns. Participles, because they are adjectives, what do adjectives do? Adjectives modify. Modify means they give you extra information about nouns or pronouns. So participles also will always come before a noun or a pronoun. Now, technically participles are two kinds, present participle and past participle, but I don't think you need to go into so much detail. Just remember, very simple to remember, if the participle ends in ing, it is called present participle. If the participle does not end in ing, it is called past participle. Very simple. So what is a participle? Whenever a verb is used as an adjective, whenever a verb is used as an adjective, it is called a participle. Okay? If the participle is in the ing form, it is called present participle. If the participle is not in the ing form, it is called past participle. I'm trying to explain this in very simple ways. In a very simple way. If you go and refer to books, they're going to make it very complicated. So I'll show you an example. I'll show you an example. See, I told you, present participles, they end in ing. Past participles have many forms. Ed, en, d, t, and so many. For example, asked, eaten, saved, dealt, seen. All these words can be used as adjectives. You can see some examples here. This is present participle. This is present participle because what happens here? She is buying a talking bird for her daughter. What kind of a bird is it? It's a talking bird. Talking is an adjective. It's a participle. Okay? A broken clock. What kind of a clock is this? Broken. Adjective. Broken is adjective. Even though normally talking and broken, they are verbs. But in the second case, because it's not in the ing form, it is the past participle. Yes, it is the past participle. Are you getting this? When I explain this sentence, how it is used, if you understand that sentence, I think the battle is won. If you understand that sentence, I think that will bring a lot of clarity. So over here, the words talking and broken, these two words, they are not used as verbs. They're not used as verbs. They are used as adjectives. Okay. In the sentence, the verb is buying. Is buying is the verb. Stood is the verb. What did the clock do? The clock stood. What is she doing? She's buying. Always ask yourself, if that word is telling you what somebody is doing or what somebody does, it's a verb. What is she doing? She's buying. What is she buying? A talking bird. What kind of a bird is it? Talking. Okay? This way it becomes very simple. It becomes very, very simple. Is this clear to you? When you use a verb as an adjective, it is a participle. When you use a verb as a noun and it has the ing form, then it is a gerund. And you whenever the word to precedes a verb, before the verb there is the word to, and these two together they function as noun, adjectives, or adverbs. Then it is called an infinitive. What is an infinitive? An infinitive is a verbal that consists of the word to plus a verb. The infinitives can act as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. For example, I love to swim. What is the name of the activity you love? To swim. To cook is a necessary skill. What is the name of the skill that is necessary? To cook. Okay, right? So love is the verb. Love is the verb. To swim. What do? You love. What is necessary is the verb. And cook is the noun. To cook is the noun. Similarly, the person to call is Jeff. What kind of a person is he? To call. The clothes to iron. What kind of clothes are these? To iron. So to call, to iron, they are used as adjectives. I can't wait. I can't wait to see. I came here to study. Okay. So how can you? I can't wait to do what? You can't. You can't wait to see. You came here to study. Why did you come here? Why? How? What? So these what, why, how, all these are answered by adverbs. So in these two cases, I can't wait to see and you came here to study, it's being used as an adverb. So remember, infinitive is a verbal. Very easy to identify infinitives because they will always have two and a verb together. To plus a verb, and it will be used as either a noun or an adjective or an adverb. That is how you come to know it's an infinitive. Is this clear? These are three verbals. These are three verbals that you need to know about. One is gerund, always ing form, always nouns. Okay, always ing form. No, come here is nothing. Here is an adverb. Here is an adverb. Come is a verb. Gerund will always be in the ing form, Sharad. That is what I'm repeating right now. Gerund is always in the ing form. It's always noun. Okay. Participle is always adjective. Participle is always adjective. It can be in the ing form or it may not be in the ing form. If it is in the ing form, it is called present participle. If it is not in the ing form, it is called past participle. Very simple. Infinitives will always have the word to before the verb. They can be used as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. That's it. These are three verbals. We are discussing this because you may need this information. Okay? Is this clear? Okay. Now the last thing that I want to discuss with you is something called the clause and the phrase. This is the last thing I want to discuss, and then we are done. What is a clause and what is a phrase? Okay. Now see, in a sentence, there are a group of words, right? Now remember, if a group of words, they form part of a sentence, they contain a subject and a verb. So both a subject and a verb are present in the group of words. That part is called a clause. Okay, it is called a clause. Clauses will always make complete sense. Okay, for example, if you say I quit, there is a subject and there's a verb. Nobody listens. There's a subject and there's a verb. Our team is the subject. Okay, and there's a verb also. Our team has a 7-game losing streak. So this is a clause. So what is a clause? Clause is a group of words that has a subject and a verb. Now you may ask me, what is the difference between clause and sentence? Aren't they sentence also? Remember, in a sentence there can be multiple clauses. The difference between a sentence and a clause is a part of sentence. In a sentence, there can be multiple clauses. That is why they are different. But did you understand what is a clause? Clause is a group of words that make complete sense. They make complete sense. Why? Because both the subject and the verb are present. That is why it makes complete sense. Right? But please don't think that clauses are sentences. No. If in a sentence there is only one clause, then yes, that clause is the sentence. But sometimes a sentence can have either a single clause or more than one clause. It's possible. For example, over here, I quit is both a clause, it's also a sentence. Okay? Nobody listens is a clause, it's also a sentence. This also is a clause, it's also a sentence. Which means, what does this tell you? This tells you that a sentence will have at least one clause. Without a clause, you cannot call a group of words a sentence. A sentence will have at least one clause. Okay? But a sentence can have multiple clauses also. For example, over here, while she was sleeping, I was reading. She was sleeping, subject. This is the subject and this is the verb. I, subject. I was reading, verb. So subject-verb combination, this is one clause. She was sleeping is another clause. There are two clauses here. I looked everywhere, but the cat was gone. This is clause number 1. This is clause number 2. So there are two clauses in this sentence. Whereas I looked everywhere. If I simply say like this, I looked everywhere. This also is a sentence, but this sentence will have only one clause. Okay. So if there is a subject and a verb, then it's called a clause. A sentence will have at least one clause. A sentence will have at least one clause. Okay. At least one clause is going to be there, and there can be multiple clauses also. Did you understand? So the part of the group of words that have both subject and verb, right? Now, if you go back a little bit, and if you look at sentence number 3, our team has, what does it have? A 7-game losing streak. A 7-game losing streak. A 7-game losing streak. This is actually a phrase. Okay, it's a phrase. What exactly is a phrase? Phrase is a group of words that will not make complete sense because it does not have a subject and a verb. Okay, what is a phrase? Phrase is a group of words in the sentence that does not contain a subject and a verb. Okay, so in other words, what does this mean? It means that in a sentence, one part that has a subject and a verb will be a clause, while the rest of it, without those two parts of speeches, is a phrase. Now, phrases, because they don't have subjects and verbs, that is why they will not make complete sense. A group of words that is a part of a sentence, but it does not make complete sense, is called a phrase. For example, if in a sentence you find these in a corner, will in a corner make sense? No, because of the traffic. Will this make sense in isolation? No. Of gold, will this make sense in isolation? No. The teacher's responsibility, will this make sense in isolation? No. Why they will not make sense? Because subject and verbs are not there. Subjects and verbs are not there. Okay. So in a sentence, sentences can have there can be so many different kinds of sentences. Some sentences have only one clause. Some sentences have multiple clauses and they also have phrases. Some sentences have one clause, one phrase. So many possibilities are there. Remember that this is what I was saying. A clause and a phrase may coexist in a sentence. For example, he is playing in the field. He is playing is the clause. In the field is the phrase. So they both are part of sentence. So this sentence contains one clause and one phrase. He is playing in the field. He is playing is the clause and in the field is the phrase. So what is a phrase? Phrase is a group of words that will not make sense in isolation because it does not have a subject and verb. So again, another very easy way of remembering the difference between a phrase and a clause is that a phrase does not make complete sense on its own. It will require the help of other words to make it a complete sentence. For example, if you find in the field written somewhere alone, you will be unable to understand it. It is going to confuse you. It will make no sense. It will make no sense. So what does this tell us? This tells us that a phrase is a set of words that does not make up a complete and understandable sentence by its own. Within a sentence, there can be a phrase and a clause both. But at least one clause will be there in a sentence. For example, let us try to identify the phrase and the clause. Sentence number 1. On the way to the computer store yesterday, we discovered a shortcut to the farmer's market. If you look at this first part, on the way to the computer store yesterday, this is a phrase. Subject and verbs are not there. We discovered, we are the subject, and what did we do? We discovered. Verb is also there. We discovered a shortcut in the farmer's market. This is a clause. Okay. Similarly, at the computer store, Philip bought a computer and I returned my printer. At the computer store is a phrase. Philip, what did Philip do? Philip bought a computer. This is a clause. This is a clause. This is clause number 1. And I, what did I do? I returned my printer. This is clause number 2. So there are in sentence number 2, there are 2 clauses and 1 phrase. Number 3, as a student, he was no Einstein. He was no Einstein is a clause. As a student is a phrase. Okay. So what exactly is a clause? It's a group of words that makes complete sense because it has both a subject and a verb. A sentence will have at least one clause. Without at least one clause, we cannot frame a sentence. But the difference between a clause and a sentence is that in a sentence there can be multiple clauses. For example, if you read sentence number 2, sentence number 2 has 2 clauses and 1 phrase. What is a phrase? Phrase is a group of words that does not make complete sense, and this group of words is part of a sentence. It does not make complete sense. Why it does not make complete sense? Because it does not have a subject and a verb. That is why. So a sentence, in a sentence, you can find a combination of clauses and phrases, but at least one clause will be required. Did you understand? Anything that requires clarification, please ask. Is there anything you did not understand? Anything requires clarification? So we discussed today, what did we discuss? Today we discussed verbs, most important part of speech, verbs. In verbs, we discussed action verbs and linking verbs. We discussed transitive verbs, intransitive verbs. We discussed active voice, passive voice. Right? And after that, after verbs, we came to adverbs. Adverbs give us more information about verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. They tell us how, when, to what extent, where. All this information is provided by an adverb. Then we saw conjunctions that join sentences. Some conjunctions are used in isolation, some conjunctions are used in pairs. Then we also saw interjections that convey very strong emotions. And I then told you that, a word is never always one part of speech. It keeps changing depending on the usage. After we have done all this, I discussed 2 different concepts with you. One is called verbals. Verbals are those verbs. The only thing that you need to remember, if you don't want to remember finite verb, infinite verb, no problem. If you just remember that verbals are those verbs that do not function as verbs. If in a sentence it's being used as a noun and it has the ing form, it is a gerund. If in a sentence it is being used as an adjective and it has ing form, then it is a present participle. If it is used as an adjective, it does not have ing form, it is past participle. And if the verb is preceded by the word to, and they together, the word to and the verb together, they are being used as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs, then they are called infinitives. And finally, we discussed what is a phrase and what is a clause. Clause is a group of words that make complete sense because it has subject and verb. Clauses are a small part of a sentence because a sentence can have multiple clauses. But a sentence will have at least one clause. Phrases are groups of words that do not make complete sense because they do not have subjects and verbs. Phrases also are part of a sentence. Very simple. Okay? Anybody has any discomfort? Anything you did not understand? You will have to go through. You will have to go through. You will have to go through this PPT again. Okay? And if there is any doubt, you can always get back. I think that's it. This is what I wanted to discuss. These are the basic things. Most of the students are already aware of all these things. It was just a recapitulation. Because then when we are discussing error correction questions, I will not keep coming back to the meaning of a clause. What is a clause? What is a phrase? What is a gerund? These are things that we will not discuss because we have already gone through all these things. I will assume that you know these expressions. Okay? But even then, if it is required, I will again help you. Don't worry. Okay, so that's it for today. That's it for today. We finished early, and the schedule for the next week will be uploaded, and accordingly we are going to meet. Okay? Okay. Take care, all of you. Good night. Take care.
music